If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the community. You won't want to miss what happens next. What if the only home you've ever known, the place where you learned to walk, where you whispered secrets to the wind, where every sunrise painted the same endless fields, wasn't a home at all, but a carefully constructed cage built from secrets too heavy to speak aloud? And a roof overhead was also the one guarding the biggest truths of your life behind walls of silence. And what if, after spending your entire childhood dreaming of a mother who would finally see you, choose you, love you without reservation, she suddenly appeared beautiful, polished, promising a world of luxury and adventure, only to reveal, piece by piece, that every smile, every hug, every whispered promise was part of a ruthless plan to strip you of everything that was rightfully yours. My name is Ariana Ree. For shorthand, this is the raw, unfiltered story of how I grew up on a remote, dusty ranch, believing deep in my bones that I was unwanted, how I chased a glittering fantasy of family that nearly cost me my future, and how the people I'd spent years resenting, pushing away, misunderstanding, turned out to be the ones who risked everything to pull me back from the edge. It's a story woven with hidden truths that spanned decades, heartbreaking betrayals that cut deeper than any knife, quiet acts of love disguised as gruffness and distance, and the slow, agonizing journey toward realizing that real family isn't always the one you reborn into it, as the one that chooses over and over to fight for you when the lies finally crumble and the truth demands to be seen. I was raised on that isolated ranch, surrounded by miles of golden fields that stretched to the horizon, endless blue sky overhead, and the constant lowing of cattle that became the soundtrack of my childhood. My Aunt Paula, my mother's identical twin sister, took me in as a tiny, helpless newborn and raised me entirely on her own, with no help, no partner, no safety net. You'd think that kind of sacrifice, that kind of devotion, would forge an unbreakable bond between us, something warm and close and full of shared laughter. But with us, it was the complete opposite. We didn't even look related. I had wild, fiery red hair that caught the sunlight like flames and tangled in the constant ranch wind, warm brown eyes that people sometimes said sparkled when I smiled, and features that, even as a kid, I knew turned heads in town. Paula, on the other hand, carried the weight of years in every weary line on her face, her hair thinning from endless stress she rarely explained, her shoulders slightly stooped from days spent hauling feed and mending fences. The hardest part, the one that left the deepest ache, was the unbreakable wall she built whenever I asked about my parents, especially my mum. I'd push harder, heart pounding with hope and fear. But why didn't she want me? Was she a redhead like me? Did she love horses? Did she ever sing lullabies or tell stories? Paula would shut it down instantly, voice clipped, "Some questions don't have answers worth hearing," or "Some things aren't worth digging up again." Those words landed like stones in my chest, heavier each time. I'd finish my homeschool lessons early, because books were my escape and rattle off every random fact I'd absorbed, like how octopuses have 3 hearts and swimming actually stops one from beating properly, just trying to spark something, anything, a conversation, a connection. But even that irritated her. "You stress me out," she'd sigh, then launch into the endless litany of bills that kept her awake at night, the ones slowly stealing her hair in clumps, her sleep, her patience, her hope. Bills, always the bills. Paula wasn't cruel, not in the ways stories warn about. She made sure I had 3 meals a day, clothes that fit even if they were hand-me-downs, lessons structured and complete every single day. But she never let me stretch my wings, never let me glimpse the world beyond our fences. We were too far from town for regular school, too strapped for cash for dance classes or sports, or even a simple movie night. Traveling became my deepest, most secret dream there. One thing I whispered to the stars on clear nights, when the ranch felt impossibly small and the silence between Paula and me felt impossibly loud. If you've ever grown up feeling like a polite guest in your own house, like every question about your roots hits an unbreakable brick wall, like the people meant to love you most keep their hearts locked behind exhaustion and unspoken pain, pause right here and drop a comment below. Tell me your story, your ache, your quiet moments of wondering. Knowing we've carried similar weights always makes the load feel a little lighter. One rare trip into town for supplies shifted everything forever. I spotted a carnival poster taped to a shop window, bright, exploding lights, swirling music, laughter spilling into the streets like an invitation. I begged Paula to let me go, voice trembling with excitement I couldn't hide. She refused, same as always, citing money and safety and chores. So, for the first time in my 17 years, I did something completely, breathtakingly reckless. I waited until dark, heart hammering, and snuck out alone. The carnival was pure, overwhelming magic colors bursting overhead in fireworks. The sweet smell of popcorn and cotton candy wrapping around me, music vibrating through my chest and into my bones. For those precious hours, I felt truly alive, truly free, like the world had finally opened its arms. We wandered the midway together, hands brushing accidentally on purpose, sharing shy laughs and stolen glances that felt like the beginning of something real and bright. Until Paula stormed through the crowd, faced thunderous with worry and fury, and dragged me home. In panic, I blurted some ridiculous lie about him being my future husband, who'd de-whisk me away forever. He bolted in sheer terror. That night I cried into my pillow until it was soaked through, wishing harder than I ever had for parents who actually wanted me around, who'd let me breathe. The very next morning, as I mucked out the stables, with tears still drying on my cheeks, a sleek black car crunched slowly up our long gravel drive. A woman stepped out, stunningly elegant, dressed like she'd walked straight off a red carpet. Eventand ran toward me with tears streaming down her flawless face. She threw her arms around me and held on like she'd never let go, like I was the most precious thing she'd ever touched. "Ariana, it's really you. I never thought I'd find you again." My heart stopped beating for a second. "I'm your mother." Everything around me spun. Paula had spent my whole life painting my mum as selfish, heartless, incapable. But this woman's serenobled, out-faded old photographs of a younger version of herself holding a red-haired baby, a birth certificate with my full name in elegant script, Ariana Marie Campbell, undeniable, heartbreaking proof. Moments later, Paula's truck screeched into the yard. She took one look at Serena and completely lost it, voice cracking with rage and something that sounded almost like fear. The entire ugly history poured out like poison long held back. Twin sisters raised in the same harsh foster system, both hired young by the wealthy Campbell family. My father, James Campbell, fell deeply, irrevocably in love with Serena. They married quickly, had me, but Paula, consumed by jealousy that festered for years, framed Serena for stealing from the family company. Serena was arrested, ripped away. The same tragic day, James suffered a devastating car accident. Paula scooped up newborn me and vanished into the night, hiding us on this isolated ranch to keep the massive Campbell fortune forever out of reach. Paula screamed that Serena was lying, dangerous, manipulative, a threat. But every locked door inside my heart suddenly swung wide open. I'd begged for truth my entire life and been fed only silence, half answers, deflections. "You didn't protect me, Paula," I said, voice shaking with years of accumulated hurt finally breaking free. "You trapped me small, kept me from knowing who I really am." I walked away with Serena, heart pounding with equal parts terror and hope, toward the brand new life she painted in vivid, tempting colors. We drove cross-country to California, windows down and music playing, arriving at a mansion that looked like it had been plucked straight from a fairy tale, towering white walls, manicured gardens blooming in impossible colors, fountains dancing in the sunlight. My new bedroom was larger than our entire ranch house back home. The bed swallowed me in mountains of pillows and silk sheets that felt like sleeping on clouds. Servants materialized like magic, offering golden waffles dusted with actual edible glitter for breakfast, manicures and pedicures with polishes in every shade imaginable, scented baths that smelled like entire blooming gardens, lavender or lemongrass or rose. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, everything I'd secretly dreamed of, and so much more. Paula's missed calls stacked up on my phone like unread regrets, but I let them go to voicemail. Too caught up in finally being seen, finally being heard, finally feeling chosen. Serena listened to my travel dreams with shining eyes and promised we'd go everywhere. Together Paris, at sunset Tokyo neon nights, Santorini cliffs overlooking endless blue sea, anywhere my heart desired. She even planned a huge welcome home party just to celebrate my arrival, to show the world her long-lost daughter was finally home. Like this video if you ever chased a dream of perfect belonging so desperately that you ignored the tiny, nagging warnings in your gut telling you something wasn't quite right. And share it with someone who understands how hope and fear can twist together until they feel exactly the same. The party was my first real taste of crowds' crystal chandeliers sparkling overhead, live music floating through marble halls, laughter echoing off walls lined with art I couldn't name. The noise and hundreds of staring eyes sent me fleeing to the moonlit garden for fresh air. That's where I found Leo, same age as me, sneaking shrimp cocktails from a passing tray, looking adorably guilty and completely real. He panicked when he spotted me and accidentally flung a shrimp straight into my hair. We laughed until we couldn't breathe, until tears streamed down our faces. Leo worked as a waiter that night. His mum and sister were permanent house staff. We talked for hours under the stars. No pretense, no performance, just honest words and shared silences. He became my first genuine friend in this dazzling, overwhelming new world, the one person I didn't have to filter myself around. School started a week later, and I was a complete nervous wreck, never having stepped foot in a real classroom before. Leo couldn't skip his own public school classes. But Lucas, son of one of Serena's most powerful business partners, appeared like a storybook hero on the football field, catching a stray ball inches from my face. Charismatic, effortlessly popular, surrounded by admirers who hung on his every word. He pulled me gently into his glittering orbit. Suddenly, I had crowded lunch tables full of smiling faces. Party invites sliding into my phone daily. The full high school experience I'd only ever watched longingly from afar in movies. Serena was absolutely ecstatic. "Lucas is perfect for you," she kept repeating, her smile a little too bright, her eyes gleaming with something I couldn't quite name. But my heart kept drifting back to Leotha, one I could be completely, unapologetically myself with. We had ridiculous burping contests after downing too much soda, cracked stupid inside jokes that left us wheezing, shared long, comfortable silences that felt like home. One perfect golden afternoon in the garden, he caught me noticing the crooked way he smiled, one corner lifting first. Like he was waiting for the world to laugh along and teased gently that plenty of girls had fallen for him over the years. But my quiet observation was the sweetest compliment yet. For one breathless, heart-stopping second, I thought he might lean in and kiss me. Instead, he gently plucked a stray leaf from my tangled red hair, grinned that crooked grin, and left for family errands. I floated home on a cloud of possibility until Serena cornered me in the grand foyer, voice sharp with fury that I'd chosen that street rat over Lucas. She threatened Leo's family's jobs. their visas, their entire life here. The next morning she appeared with apologies and lavish gifts, speaking softly about the rules of our new world, and how certain choices reflected on the family name. But the threat lingered in the air like smoke I couldn't quite wave away. I went to Lucas's lavish birthday party to keep the fragile peace. At first, he was charming, arm looped casually around my shoulders. Then, in front of his laughing circle of friends, he turned my entire past into cruel entertainment, mocking the ranch life. The cows and horses, the fact I'd never set foot in a real school until now. She basically grew up in a barn, he sneered, voice dripping condescension. Super poor, locked away like some fairy tale prisoner with hens and dirt. The laughter that followed cut deeper than anything I'd felt before. My face burned with humiliation. I defended Paula quietly, but firmly she'd done the best she could with nothing, and walked out, cheeks flaming, heart pounding. Phone dead, no cab in sight on the dark street. I felt someone following close behind, ready to fight, adrenaline surging. I spun around and there was Leo in the world's most absurd hot dog costume, whispering urgently that we needed to talk right now. He revealed Serena had fired his mum and sister anyway, threatened full deportation back to Serbia. Worse, he'd overheard her late-night phone call discussing a massive trust fund placed solely in my name. Something she'd never breathed a word about. Paula's old warnings suddenly echoed like screaming alarm bells in my head. Heartbroken, furious, terrified, I reached out to Paula texts, pouring out, voicemails cracking with tears, desperate pleas for help. Nothing but silence in return. Alone in that glittering mansion that suddenly felt cold, I started searching for answers myself. While Serena was away at an important meeting, I slipped into her private bedroom. Under the neatly made bed, I found a hidden bag stuffed with fake IDs in different names. Multiple forged passports, and one old tarnished brass key. That same night, heart hammering, I crept downstairs and tried the heavy locked basement door ID. Noticed my very first evening here, the one Serena had brushed off as under renovation for pest issues. The key turned with a soft, ominous click. Fluorescent lights buzzed to life overhead, revealing a hidden private hospital room, machines beeping steadily, tubes and wires snaking everywhere, and on the narrow bed, a frail man, pale but unmistakably alive. My father, James Campbell's, supposedly dead and buried for 17 long years. A hand clamped over my mouth from behind. Everything went black. I woke hours later tied tightly to a metal chair in that same basement, head throbbing. Serena stood over me like a stranger, flanked by Lucas and his father, their faces stripped of any warmth. The final, devastating truth spilled out cold and merciless. I was in T. Serena's biological daughter at Al James, had had a secret affair with a household maid years ago. Serena, always feeling second place, grew bitter and vengeful and began stealing large sums from the company. Paula discovered the theft and told James everything. Serena was arrested and sent to prison for 15 years. Lucas's father, a high-ranking executive, helped orchestrate the cover-up. Faked James's death in the accident, held a sham funeral to quiet lawyers and shareholders, kept him hidden in overseas clinics until medical bills forced them to bring him home secretly. Their long game. Wait patiently until my 18th birthday, when the enormous trust fund James had placed solely in my name became legally mine, then force me to sign every penny over to them. In 2 days I would turn 18. They needed my signature. Or my permanent disappearance. Locked in that sterile basement with my silent, comatose father. I talked to him through choking tears, telling him about lonely ranch nights staring at stars, about dreams of faraway cities, about the constant ache of feeling unwanted. I begged him to hear me, to help somehow, and then, an impossible miracle, his eyes moved. Just slightly at first, then deliberately, guiding my gaze to a broken wooden stick tucked in the far corner. Fresh hope flared like wildfire in my chest. I used the stick to bang relentlessly on the heavy door until footsteps finally came. When Lucas opened it to check, I swung with everything I had, elbowed him hard in the stomach, and ran barefoot up the stairs. Serena caught me at the grand front door, fingers digging painfully into my arms, until the door suddenly exploded open. Paula, Leo, and a team of police officers flooded in like avenging angels. Serena, Lucas, and his father were handcuffed on the spot and led away, screaming empty threats that no longer held any power over me. Paula dropped to her knees right there on the marble floor in front of me, tears cutting clean tracks through the dust on her weary cheeks. She'd been gone on a soul-searching solo trip to the Himalayas, trying to heal from our explosive fight and years of bottled pain. She hadn't seen my desperate messages and voicemails until the day before. Leo, using old ranch records, had tracked down her emergency contact and emailed her everything he'd uncovered. Together, they'd raced across the country and brought help just in time. We took Paula down the basement stairs together. Seeing James alive, breathing steadily, eyes open and aware for the first time in years, broke something open inside her. She knelt gently by his bed, held his thin hand, whispered memories and apologies and promises through fresh tears. Even unable to speak yet, his eyes shone with unmistakable peace, gratitude, recognition, and love. Leo pulled me into the warmest, safest hug I'd ever known. His ridiculous hot dog costume long discarded somewhere along the way. And in that quiet, perfect moment, surrounded by the 3 people who had chosen me, no conditions, no secrets, no hidden agendas, I finally, truly felt home. Not because of blood or money or mansions, but because love, real love, had fought its way through years of silence, mistakes, and pain to stand beside me when the truth finally broke free. Family isn't always the one you're born into. Sometimes it's the one that shows up again and again when everything else falls apart. What about you? Have you ever discovered that the people you thought were keeping you small were actually shielding you from dangers you couldn't yet see, or found real, unbreakable love and belonging in the places you least expected after chasing illusions that nearly broke you? Drop your own stories, your deepest thoughts, your hopes and lessons in the comments below. I read every single one, and they mean the world. Hit that bell icon so you're notified the moment the next story goes live. Thank you for staying with me through this long, emotional journey today. It means more than you'll ever know. See you soon.